The teachings of Mr. William Lynch. Throughout the history of the children of Israel, this renamed so-called Negro, Yahweh, the God of Israel, has always used the other nations that he has created to chasten his chosen nation. This is evident when the Holy Bible is studied, the Willie Lynch letter is read, and the conditions of this so-called black people is observed. The nations have always been the strap Yahweh used for the disobedience and rebellion of his children. From the many Hamite nations surrounding them during their calling, to the 4 empires brought upon them while established in the Promised Land, none other captivity altered the culture, moral values, or family structure of the children of Israel, such as this extension of the Roman Empire here in America. Willie Lynch was an authoritarian and strict slave owner in the West Indies, summoned to Virginia in 1712 to introduce his methods of slave control through role reversals and various forms of separation from within the family structure. This would only be the fulfilling of the curses placed on the children of Israel for folly and error. The things we see are controlled by the being we cannot. Deuteronomy chapter 28 verses 47 through 50. Because you serve not Yahweh, your Elohim, with joyfulness and gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things, therefore shall you serve your enemies which Yahweh shall send against you, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck, until he has destroyed you. Yahweh shall bring a nation against you from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies. A nation whose language you shall not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. Israel fell victim to this curse as America dealt wisely with them, using Mr. Lynch's keep the body and take the mind philosophy, or in other words, break their will to resist. This, as he stated, will cause the cycle to be, quote, self-refueling, end quote, generating for generations. Willie Lynch outlined a number of differences among the slaves, such as skin tone, age, and gender, even to the point of fine hair versus coarse hair, status on and size of plantations, and attitudes of owners towards his slaves. For control purposes, Mr. Lynch informed slave owners in the U.S. that they must highlight these differences, making them bigger, to create fear, envy, and distrust amongst the slaves, stating in his address, "But it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves will remain perpetually distrustful of each other." Yet Yahweh already warned our people through the prophet Zechariah of these days, informing us that this would be his doing. Zechariah chapter 8 verses 9 through 10. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, let your hands be strong, you that hear in these days these words by the mouths of the prophets, which were in the days that the foundation of the house of Yahweh of hosts was laid, that the temple might be built. For before these days there was no hire for man, nor any hire for beast, neither was there any peace to him that went out or came in because of the affliction. For I set all men, every one against his neighbor. And truly, since the civil rights movement of integration, we've become the most diversified, misidentified, do-for-self, individualistic people on the face of the earth. Willie Lynch's self-refueling methods are alive and well today due to Yahweh's curse. Mr. Lynch suggested, pitch the old black males against the young black males, the dark-skinned slaves against the light-skinned slaves, and you must use the female against the male and the male against the female. The latter, though last mentioned, was truly the main objective, male slave versus female slave and female slave versus male slave. Mr. Lynch, a consultant to give technical assistance and insight to the business of chattel slavery, saw the woman as, quote, the most important factor for good economics, end quote. He says, further, there is an art to long-range economic planning. You must keep your eye and thoughts on the female and the offspring, but pay little attention to the generation of original breaking, yet concentrate on future generations. Therefore, if you break the female, She will, in turn, break the offspring in its early years of development. And when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you, for her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. This breaking process was designed to destroy the black family by corrupting the image of the black male as a protector and provider, all in the sight of the black female. Lynch discussed tying one nigger male to two horses set in opposite directions. Tar and feather the nigger male, set him on fire, and whip the horses in two different directions. Then whip the rest of the nigger males to the point of death, all in the sight of the nigger female and children. In the female's natural state, she would have a strong dependency on the male savage. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from a psychological dependent state to a frozen independent state. This would cause her to raise her children in reverse roles. Then you've got the nigger woman out front and the nigger male behind and scared. Yet, this was also prophesied by Jeremiah in chapter 31, verses 22, as states, "How long will you go about, O you backsliding daughter? For Yahweh has created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man." And today, this holds so true, as the so-called black women of today are choosing corporate careers over marriage. Yet, they haven't much to choose from. According to statistics from the Criminal Injustice Department, black men make up only 13% of the U.S. population, yet 30% of all arrestees and 41% of the prison population. The black male image has been destroyed as a protector as well as a provider. The National Urban League released its annual report November, stating the unemployment rate of the black men doubled that of white men last year, bringing it to 27%. But that's only what's reported and documented. Since the diversity created by the ungodly civil rights movement, black families are truly out of the question. In the article, Marriages for White People, presented at WashingtonPost.com, the marriage rate for African Americans has been dropping since the 1960s, and today we have the lowest rate of any racial group in the U.S. In 2001, the U.S. Census said 43.3% of black men and 41.9% of black women in America have never been married. In the period between 1970 and 2001, the overall marriage rate in the U.S. declined by 17%, but for blacks it fell 34%. Willie Lynch's idea was to create an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis, shaving off the brute's mental history, replacing it with a multiplicity of phenomena of illusions. The purpose, to create a diversified division of labor, thereby creating different levels of labor and different values of illusion at each connecting level of labor, the results of which is the severance of the points of original beginning for each sphere of illusion.